You know, it's funny. You'd think the future of stealth technology would come from some top-secret lab. But what if I told you one of nature's quietest, most delicate creatures holds the key? It turns out the humble moth has been hiding a masterpiece of acoustic engineering right in plain sight, a secret that's been millions of years in the making. And I'm not being dramatic. This is a real evolutionary arms race that's been raging every single night since the dinosaurs were still around. It's a high-stakes battle of sound and silence, of hunter and hunted, playing out right above our heads. So let's set the stage. On one side, you've got the bat, an absolute master of the night. And on the other, the moth, its favorite meal. This ancient conflict has driven some of the most incredible innovations you can possibly imagine. A true life-or-death game of technological one-upmanship. Now, the bat's weapon of choice is echolocation, basically biological sonar. It sends out these super high-frequency clicks and then listens for the echoes to build a perfect 3D sound map of its world. In total darkness, it's an almost unbeatable system for snagging prey. So, the big question is, how on earth does a moth survive this? And this is where the real mystery kicks in. Sure, some moths evolved ears to hear about coming, but a lot of species are completely deaf. They literally cannot hear the danger closing in. It's a fascinating paradox, right? How do you dodge a predator that you can't even detect? Well, it turns out you don't need to hear the attack if you can make yourself invisible to it. The moth's defense is just a masterclass in passive stealth. It's a two-part system, and the first part is all about protecting its most vulnerable target, its body. And the idea here is actually pretty simple. That dense, furry-looking coat on a moth's thorax, it works just like the acoustic foam you'd find in a recording studio. It's a porous absorber. It traps and deadens sound waves instead of letting them bounce back to the bat. And we're not talking about a small effect here. Research shows this furry coating can cut a moth's risk of being detected by as much as 38%. Just by soaking up some of that sonar, the moth dramatically weakens the echo that the bat is listening for. It's a huge advantage. But here's the catch. That solution only works for the body. The wings? Well, they're a completely different and much, much harder engineering problem to solve. I mean, think about it. You just can't slap a thick, furry coat onto a delicate wing. The weight, the drag, it would make flying impossible. So nature had to come up with something else, something ultra-thin, incredibly light, but just as good at killing sound. And this is the real head-scratcher. See, your typical sound absorber needs to be pretty thick to work, at least a tenth of the wavelength of the sound it's trying to stop. A bat's sonar waves are centimeters long, but a moth's wing is just a tiny fraction of a millimeter thick. So how did evolution solve a problem that seems to completely defy the laws of physics? And this, right here, is where things get really interesting. The answer isn't just clever biology, it's a technology so advanced that we humans have only just figured out how to build it ourselves. The secret is something called an acoustic metamaterial. Now, what that means is it's a material that gets its amazing properties not from what it's made of, but from its incredibly complex structure. By arranging lots of tiny little building blocks in a specific pattern, you can make a material do extraordinary things with sound, things normal materials just can't do. And here it is, the big reveal. That intricate, beautiful layer of scales on a moth's wing is a naturally occurring acoustic metamaterial. It's the very first one we've ever found. It seems nature beat our best engineers to the punch by about 65 million years. To really wrap your head around how mind-blowing this is, think about this number. The layer of scales on the moth's wing is as little as 1/50th the thickness of the sound wave it's absorbing. That's what engineers call deep sub-wavelength absorption, and for them, it's pretty much the holy grail. So how in a world does it work? Well, the wing is covered in millions of tiny overlapping scales, all with different shapes and sizes. And each one of those individual scales acts like a tiny little tuning fork. It vibrates and absorbs sound energy at its own unique frequency. And because you have this huge variety of scales, the entire wing working together can absorb sound across the whole range of frequencies that bats use. It's like a symphony of silence. And if you need proof, nature provided the perfect control group, butterflies. They fly during the day, so they're not hunted by bats. And guess what? They never evolved this trick. Their wing scales actually reflect sound, making them a giant glowing target for sonar. This is pretty much the smoking gun. irrefutable evidence that the moth's stealth cloak is a direct result of this ancient war with bats. The results are just stunning. In an experiment at the University of Bristol, scientists put moth wings on top of a highly reflective aluminum disc. That wing coating absorbed up to 87% of the incoming sound. It basically made a metal plate acoustically invisible. Let that sink in. So, this discovery is way more than just a fascinating piece of biology. It's a blueprint. It's showing us how to achieve what we once thought was impossible, and it's opening up a whole new frontier in engineering. As a lead researcher on this, Professor Mark Holder-Reed put it, moths are literally going to inspire the next generation of sound-absorbing materials. And that's not just an academic curiosity. This is the future. So why should you care? Well, just imagine soundproofing wallpaper that's as thin as, a piece of paper. Imagine planes, trains, and cars that are way quieter and more fuel efficient because the stuff that makes them quiet weighs almost nothing. By copying the moth's wing, we could create these ultra-thin, super lightweight materials to fight noise pollution everywhere, in our homes, our cities, and our vehicles. So, in the end, this ancient nocturnal war, fought with invisible waves of sound, has handed us the key to solving some of our most modern problems. Nature's incredibly elegant solution for survival is now our inspiration for a much quieter world. And that really just leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? If a simple moth's wing can hold the secret to next-generation stealth technology, what other incredible breakthroughs are fluttering, swimming, or growing right outside our window, just waiting for us to look close enough to see them?
Don't go anywhere, hit subscribe and we continue.
What if I told you the most advanced mining technology on Earth isn't some giant gas-guzzling machine? What if it doesn't dig, or blast, or smelt, but grows? It sounds like science fiction, but it's not. We're about to dive into the world of plants that have been quietly mining our planet for millions of years. This is the incredible hidden story of farming for metal.
So, our story kicks off in a pretty remote place, the rainforests of New Caledonia. Now, deep in these forests, there's a particular tree that when you slice into the bark, it bleeds. But what comes out isn't red or even clear. It's this absolutely stunning, vibrant, turquoise green liquid. There is no other plant on Earth known to have sap like this. But you know what? The color isn't even the wildest part of the story.
The truly mind-blowing thing is what's in that blue-green sap. When scientists took a closer look, they found that its dry weight can be up to 25% pure nickel. Let that just sink in for a second. Not 2.5%, 25%. That is a higher concentration of metal than you find in many of the actual ores we dig out of the ground with heavy machinery. So yeah, a tree that literally bleeds metal. This natural wonder is called Pycnodranda acuminata, and it's not some kind of one-off genetic fluke. It's actually the most extreme example we found of a very rare, very special group of plants that have evolved to do something that sounds impossible. They pull heavy metals right out of the soil and stockpile them in their bodies.
Okay, so nature's tiny miners. The obvious question is, how is this even possible? This tree, and hundreds of others like it, are what scientists have nicknamed nature's own mining crew. They've developed a kind of biological superpower, and the science behind it is just fascinating.
The key scientific term you need to know here is hyperaccumulator, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. See, for almost every other plant on the planet, heavy metals in the soil are pure poison. They avoid them. But hyperaccumulators, they're different. They actively seek this stuff out, sucking metal ions up through their roots and storing them safely in their leaves and sap at levels that would kill a normal plant hundreds of times over. But why? Why on earth would a plant evolve to do this? Well, the leading theory is that it's an absolutely brilliant defense mechanism. By loading up its leaves with toxic metals, the plant makes itself completely disgusting and poisonous to any insect or animal that tries to take a bite. It's like a form of biological warfare, turning the very ground it grows in into its own personal weapon. And here's what's really cool. This isn't just about nickel. Scientists have now found over 700 different species of these hyperaccumulators all over the world. And together, they can pull up a whole shopping list of valuable metals. We're talking zinc, cobalt, the stuff that's absolutely critical for batteries, and even some of the rare earth elements we need for all our modern electronics.
So naturally, this incredible discovery sparked a revolutionary idea.
Scientists looked at these plants and thought, wait a minute, if nature can already pull valuable metals out of the ground, could we actually harness that? Could we plant fields of these things, not for food, but to literally harvest metal? The answer, it turns out, is a resounding yes. And that brings us to how to farm metal. The technology that's grown out of this idea is called phytomining. You might also hear it called agromining. Either way, it means exactly what it sounds like, a way to grow a crop of metal.
So how does this actually work? Well, the process is surprisingly elegant. First, you plant the right kind of hyperaccumulator crop, often on land that's already full of metal, like an old degraded mine site. Then, as the plants grow, they act like little biological sponges, just soaking up and concentrating that metal in their leaves and stems. Step 3, you harvest them just like you would a field of corn or wheat. And the final step is processing. You dry the plants out and burn them, which leaves behind a concentrated ash called a bio-ore. And from that unassuming pile of ash, you can extract pure metal.
And when you put these two methods side by side, well, the difference is just night and day. Traditional mining is often destructive, it burns a ton of energy, and it creates toxic waste. Phytomining, on the other hand, is literally solar-powered by photosynthesis. It can actually clean up and restore polluted land. And here's the real kicker. It can profitably pull metals out of low-grade soils that a traditional mining company wouldn't even look at twice.
But hold on, because this is where the story takes an even more incredible turn. It's not just about mining cleanly. Researchers are now taking this a step further, combining phytomining with another technology to create something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, a mine that is actively carbon negative.
It all starts with a concept called enhanced rock weathering, or ERW. Now, this is based on a natural process our planet already uses to regulate its climate. Certain types of rocks, when they break down, naturally pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. ERW is basically just us hitting the fast-forward button on that. We crush up these specific rocks, spread the dust on land, and let chemistry do its thing, locking away atmospheric carbon. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. What happens when you put these two amazing ideas together? You get a process that some are calling hyperweathering. As that special rock dust breaks down, it does two things. It captures carbon from the air, and it slowly releases the nickel that was locked inside it. And what's planted right there in that soil? The nickel-hungry hyperaccumulator plants, which just gobble it right up. The two processes create this perfect, synergistic loop, feeding each other. There's a company pioneering this called Metal Plant, and I think their mission statement really says it all. Forging a carbon-negative future with critical minerals and enhanced rock weathering. This isn't just about reducing our carbon footprint anymore. It's about actively reversing it, all while producing the exact materials we need for a green future.
So here's the hidden truth, the detail that changes everything. We now have the ability to produce a product like negative nickel, a critical metal we need for EV batteries and clean energy, in a way that actively removes CO2 from the atmosphere. The very process of making the metal is healing the planet. That is a complete paradigm shift in how we think about industry.
So this all sounds absolutely incredible, right? It could be the future of harvesting. But let's take a step back and look at the whole picture, both the amazing potential and the very real hurdles this technology still has to clear. The potential is, well, it's immense. I mean, just imagine. We could rehabilitate thousands of contaminated industrial sites, turning them from toxic liabilities back into thriving, productive landscapes. We could literally create treasure from trash, sifting through the waste from old mines. This could help secure a sustainable supply of critical metals, all while giving farmers a new way to make money on land that isn't great for growing food. Of course, we have to be realistic. There are challenges. The biggest one is just scale. Can this process ever really meet the massive global demand for these metals? It's also a slow process. You're limited by how fast the plants can actually grow. And while the technology is super promising, the economics of doing it on a huge commercial scale are still being proven. This is very much a technology that's still growing, you could say.
But it leaves us with this truly profound thought to chew on. For all of human history, we've had farms for our food, and we've had mines for our materials. Two totally separate things. Phytomining just completely blurs that line, and it forces us to ask this incredible question. Could the farms of the future harvest not just our food, but also the very materials that build our modern world? And could they do it all while actually healing the planet? Don't go anywhere, hit subscribe, and we continue.
I want you to think about the toughest armor you can possibly imagine. Got it? Okay. Now, what if I told you that nature built something way, way better, using a material you could literally crush between your fingers? Today, we are cracking open a simple seashell to find a secret blueprint for the super materials of tomorrow. To really get this, we have to start with a paradox. It's a puzzle that has fascinated scientists for years. It's a story of two materials that seem like complete opposites. So, on one side, you have plain old chalk. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Drop it once and it's basically dust. On the other side, you got that beautiful, shimmery inner layer of a seashell, the stuff we call mother of pearl, or nacre. And this material is tough. I mean really tough. But here's the part that will absolutely blow your mind. They're pretty much the same thing. Both are 95% calcium carbonate. So how in the world does nature turn a fragile powder into a high-tech suit of armor?
And look, we're not talking about a small improvement here. Nacre is up to 3,000 times tougher than the raw mineral it's made from. Just let that sink in for a second. 3,000 times. That is the kind of performance leap that material scientists would do almost anything to achieve.
And that brings us right to the heart of the mystery. If the ingredients are the same, what is nature's secret? How does it create this unbelievable strength from such a humble starting point? Well, it turns out the answer isn't about the what, it's all about the how. The secret isn't in the ingredient itself, it's in the recipe, and it's a recipe that's been perfected over hundreds of millions of years. You see, nacre is a masterpiece of architecture. It's built with this incredible hierarchical structure, almost like one of those Russian nesting dolls. It's engineered from the scale you can hold in your hand all the way down to the nano level, smaller than a wavelength of light. Every single layer is perfectly optimized. And when we zoom way in, down to the microscopic level, we see something truly amazing. It's this perfectly ordered, staggered pattern that looks, well, it looks exactly like a tiny brick wall. And this brick and mortar structure, that is the absolute key to its legendary toughness.
So let's break down how this tiny wall is built. The bricks are these microscopic, tablet-shaped crystals of aragonite, which is just a tough form of calcium carbonate. That's the 95%. And the mortar? That's a super thin, stretchy film of organic biopolymers. Think of it as a kind of natural superglue. That's the other 5%.
Now, this brilliantly simple design is what creates all the magic. It gives the material 4 distinct ways to resist breaking. First, if a crack starts to form, it can't just slice right through. The staggered bricks force it to take a long, winding zigzag path, which just drains all its energy. Second, the little brick platelets can actually slide past each other. This absorbs the energy from an impact so the whole thing doesn't just shatter. Third, that organic mortar acts like a flexible glue, stretching and dissipating stress across the structure. And as if that wasn't enough, the bricks themselves have these tiny bumps on them that create friction, which adds even more resistance. It's an absolutely brilliant system.
It's like materials scientist Robert Hovden from the University of Michigan said, it's incredible that a mollusk, which is not the most intelligent creature, is fabricating so many structures across so many scales. I mean, he's right. This is a masterclass in nanoengineering, taught to us by a simple sea creature.
For years, scientists have been trying to copy this design. But here's where the story takes a really cool turn. What if we could do more than just copy nature? What if we could actually upgrade it? Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What happens when you take nature's incredible blueprint and you combine it with our most advanced manufacturing technology?
Let me introduce you to 4D printing. You've definitely heard of 3D printing, right? Building things up layer by layer. Well, 4D printing adds another dimension to the mix: time. That means the object you print isn't static. It can change its shape, it can heal itself, it can adapt to its environment long after it comes off the printer.
And recently, researchers have developed a groundbreaking 4D printing technique that does just that. They created a special ink, and it's full of these tiny ceramic platelets. As the ink is printed, the physical forces of the printing process itself naturally coax those platelets into lining up, creating a near-perfect replica of Nacre's brick-and-mortar architecture automatically. It's really a beautiful 3-step process. First, they print the ink, this suspension of ceramic platelets. Second, as the ink spreads out, something called shear force naturally aligns all those platelets into those nice ordered layers. And third, as the solvent evaporates, a special polymer matrix forms around everything, locking that strong, nacre-like structure firmly in place.
So, the big question, does it actually work? Oh yeah, the results are nothing short of incredible. Compared to just the polymer on its own, this new 4D printed, nacre-inspired composite is over 3 times stronger and a whopping 26 times stiffer. That is a massive jump in performance, all by borrowing nature's architectural genius.
And this is way more than just some cool experiment in the lab. This breakthrough is unlocking a whole new generation of materials. Smart, adaptable, and unbelievably tough materials that could seriously change our world.
I mean, just think about the possibilities here. For aerospace, you could have airplane parts that are not only lighter and stronger, but that can actually heal themselves if they get damaged. In medicine, think about surgical implants that are more durable and can adapt to the human body. And of course, the obvious one, next-generation body armor that's tougher and more resilient than anything we have today.
Just as the researchers put it, this isn't a one-off trick. It's a whole new approach. It gives us the power to design complex, high-performance materials from the ground up, tailored to solve some of the toughest engineering challenges out there.
So we've just decoded one of nature's most elegant secrets, a design perfected over millions and millions of years. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? With 3.8 billion years of R&D, what other incredible breakthroughs are just hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to notice?
Thanks for watching. Support BioVellum by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Let's explore the secrets of nature together.